All right, ladies. So, everyone, welcome to the Because I Said So panel. So, we have Miss Beverly Jones with us tonight. We have Miss
Hi.
Alesia Miller and Dr. Alesia Cooper. And so, I'm so grateful that you guys are on with us tonight. We're going to have an amazing chat and discussion about the abortion pill, right? So, let's go ahead and get started. And let's take just a few moments. We'll start with you, Beverly.
Okay.
In your own opinion, just really briefly, do you feel that the abortion pill should remain legal under the legislation that we're currently dealing with? How do you feel about that?
Um, so I think from a scientific standpoint, if I have to go there first with having a science background, the first answer is absolutely. This is a pill that has been FDA approved for over 20 years. It has also shown to be, and more than half of the women who go forth with abortions do so by this pill as a safer option, sometimes than the surgical procedures that are associated with abortion. So I don't think um, that this legislation should have taken aim at this pill, not in this forum.
Absolutely. How about you, Dr. Cooper? How do you feel about it? Yay or nay
Um,
on the abortion pill?
I will say yes. I've always been pro-life, but I feel like every woman is entitled to her choice for her body. So
Mhm.
if this is what makes sense for her, I definitely think it should remain legal. The government should not have say so over what a woman does with her body.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And Miss Miller, how about you? How about you, Alicia?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with the other ladies. I would say that I'm not in favor of making the abortion pill illegal. Here in Georgia, they've signed the heartbeat bill
Mhm.
into law. And recently, having had a baby, knowing at 6 weeks is when they typically can feel the heartbeat. And I feel like at 6 weeks, I didn't even know I was pregnant.
Yeah.
So you really see that chokehold happening when trying to control women's bodies, their body autonomy, and what they're able to do, which impacts overall life decisions.
Yeah.
Overall life value and satisfaction. I really feel like those decisions do not need to be handled by the government in any way, shape, or form. Um, so yeah, no, it's a no for me. No.
Absolutely. So we've gone the legal route. And I have to ask because it just is what it is. This is where we are, ladies. So we put the legalities and the formalities aside.
Okay.
We all know that Because I Said So ministry is just that. It's a ministry, right? So we look at everything and we consider everything from a standpoint of how we know God would be blessed and glorified by the way we do things. So let's just touch it from that perspective just for a moment. We have to play the advocate, right? There's some people that are game for it, some people not, but we're here to tell the truth and to be honest about it. Who would like to take it first? We have oftentimes heard the saying, just because it's legal doesn't make it righteous. So what do
Mm.
we think about that?
Mm. I agree. I think that and the Bible teaches us about laws and being lawful.
Mhm.
Um, but I think sometimes we just simply have to consider the source of the law and the motivation behind the law, right? What's your motivation for stripping a woman of her autonomy? Now, to be clear, I agree with Dr. Cooper. I am very much so pro life. It took about 12 years to have my son, so I am really here for women having, babies. I'm okay with that, but I'm also here for women choosing a different path and not having babies, and I'm also here for the gray areas when we consider sexual assault being at an all-time high, rapes being at an all-time high, children and abuse of children being at an all-time high. I think all of those things go into consideration when we or get into consideration when we start talking about what is right, righteous, and then lawful, right? Because if it were if the two were synonymous to each other, then there would be provisions for things that were traumatic that happened, right? Or
Absolutely.
medically necessary. So, yeah, what's always lawful is maybe not always righteous.
Absolutely. And so from that standpoint, so Miss Miller, Alicia, the reality of the situation is we could say that every single woman that goes in from a standpoint of abuse and neglect, right? That would be what we would say if we were just taking it from one standpoint only, which is what Beverly just said. But we know that abortions are not always used because of rape or a traumatic experience that happened.
Right.
So how do we pursue and do we pursue with continuing to allow lives to be impacted because of teenage pregnancy or because of adult pregnancy, but we were careless. Let's just be transparent. We were careless, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's such a good point. And kind of to what Beverly was saying, when you look at the outside factors, right? I think capitalism has a lot to do with your social economic ability to move through the classes, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Black and brown people were put into a system where we don't have the advantage, right? And so adding a child to your family and not being able to have proper access to birth control, proper access to protection, the education needed to make a informed sexual decision, there's a lot stacked against people. And so even if it's, oops, I slipped up, well, let's stop and look at that environment that that young girl is living in. Let's think about, okay, well, if you didn't slip up, where could you be or what kind of life would you have? Well, let's talk about the women who didn't slip up, but they were associating with a predator. This man is way too old to be having sex with this young girl. It may not be rape in her eyes, but that's a predator. So I think just looking at some of those environmental factors and education, all of the things that go into that. And another spin on that is, okay, well, if we're looking at those who were not responsible, why aren't we instituting measures to help them in that way versus saying we're just going to take away this abortion pill? Why aren't there more classes? Why aren't there more resources for those who do want to have children and don't have what they need to take care of them? Why are people out there making decisions about, can I eat or should I get diapers? I think if we start alleviating some of those stresses, then we can really attack or look at it from a lawful, righteous perspective. But right now in our capitalist society, there are just so many factors that being careless can cost you a completely different life, different life.
Yeah.
And it's not fair.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Dr. Cooper, I am going to give you a statement that's made here in the South quite frequently. We live under the Bible Belt, so we know expectations from childhood, and we know expectations in regards to how we're expected to live our lives, right? So the statement is this: instead of encouraging abortion pills, why don't we encourage abstinence or celibacy in our young adults? So the statement is, why are more females not keeping their legs closed? That's the statement. And I that's the statement. But that's the question. I was like, what? Okay, but that's the question. So that's the question that was put out there and that was posed. So we're going to ask the question.
So I think with us living in the Bible Belt, we definitely do teach, or I'll say in our times, we were definitely taught abstinence. And I'll say in my case, I was taught abstinence, but my parents also kept it real because they were teenage parents. Hey, if you're going to get out here and do this, make sure you're using protection. Let us know so we can get you some birth control. Make sure you're taking those measures. But now, as we look at today's time, I think we're seeing sex promoted so much on the TV, on social media. So now it's the thing to do. It's the happening thing to do. You know, we're not teaching abstinence. We're seeing it on the teenage All-American. That's those students are in high school. We're seeing high school students have sex. So we're thinking that this is okay. Our teenagers are thinking this is okay now. You know, it varies from home to home. It's all in how you're raised, to what you're promoting. I think my issue with abortion is when people use it as a method of birth control.
Yeah.
And I can say I've
Absolutely.
had girlfriends in college where at this point, I can't even say you had a slip up 3-4 times and you're running to Tuscaloosa or running to Jackson every single time. You're doing this because you can. Like, let's take the measures. Let's take the precautions to make sure that we're not in these situations.
True.
I think we have to encourage our young girls to be celibate. We're not putting God first in a lot of households, as we saw growing up. My pastor actually touched on this Sunday. Let's stop glorifying sex before marriage. The sin is not in sex. The sin is in having sex before you're married. So we need to get back to the root of the Bible. You know, we need to teach our young people that, hey, sex is a pleasurable thing when you're married. It's not meant to be pleasurable outside of marriage, because it's a sin outside of marriage, if we're just going to be real about it. We've all sinned and fell short of the glory of God, but
Absolutely.
if we're going to look at this from a biblical aspect, then we definitely want to teach our children, hey, this is, there's nothing wrong with having sex, but you shouldn't be doing it before marriage. So it's hard to teach kids to keep their legs closed, or teach your son to keep his pants up when he's seeing this type of behavior glorified. He or she are seeing this type of behavior glorified on TV.
Yeah,
absolutely.
definitely.
And then from that other perspective, as you were just saying, Alesia, when you have pregnancy is not our biggest concern, right? You'll have a daughter and she'll have a STD or a STI that lays dormant. And so you're encouraging abstinence and celibacy from a standpoint of wanting to take care of your child, right? You want your baby to be safe, because there's so many things going on in the world right now. Pregnancy is something we can, most parents will say, I can deal with pregnancy. It's the uncontrollable things that happen with your body that I can't control, because I don't know exactly what's going on with you from that standpoint. So then I'll ask this question as moms, and I'd love for all three of you to answer this question. As moms, some of us have girls, some of us have boys. Do you encourage your child, if pregnancy was on the table, do we encourage the abortion pill? Now, for those of you who don't, and I'll give the moms a few moments to think that one through. Miss Miller, I'll give you a moment. Look, and I hate to back to Miss Miller, y'all, because she has an itty bitty one.
Brand new.
She has so much time to get. Woo, that's so far down the road for her. But is that something that we encourage? So we say, Dr. Cooper just said, some people are using it as if it's birth control, instead of us just abstaining or getting up and going to a clinic and getting some support and getting help, Planned Parenthood, other places to get support and get help. We're spending the money instead to go and have an abortion. With the abortion pill, it's a 2-step process. So you take the initial pill. After you take the initial pill, it's immediately or up to 48 hours after taking the initial pill that you take the second pill. The initial pill controls the progesterone levels in your body, for those that don't know. And then the second pill causes the woman's body to go through a massive menstrual cycle, right? So to cramp, to go through the process, to make it a gentler process for the individuals taking it versus going into the clinic. So from that standpoint, God forbid we have a child as a teenager, and we get a young lady pregnant as a teenager. Do we encourage abortion? Do we pursue abortion in that case, what factors even go into play with that? And I'll start with you, Miss Jones. What factors can go into play with that? I'm gonna give Miss Miller. I'm gonna let her go last. I'm gonna give her a moment to take that
Give
one
me
in.
I
time.
feel that. Let's woo
Real
her that
little.
in. She's such a little bitty sweetie.
Ooh,
So
know.
I'd like to talk about it. And yes, I think I could speak to this a little bit because I have a daughter that's 27. And so of course we have navigated the road of being interested in boys as a teenager. You know, what does sex look like, that whole situation. And if I have to be very blunt about it, if my daughter had come to me at that age and said she was pregnant, my answer would have been, we're having this. If I have a say so, we're having this baby. And here's why. And Alesia makes a very, very, very valid point when she says, number one, my socioeconomic status is such that I am able to support my children through mistakes or through things like that, through the consequences of mistakes and things of that nature. I'm like I said, I'm very pro-choice. So, you know, I would want my grandchild here. And then I've been blessed, my husband and I have been blessed to be able to help my daughter get back to that space where she's still quite successful, and that having a child does not severely alter the direction that her life was probably going in the first place. Having said that, you have to give credence to those who do not have the socioeconomic status for that to occur for them. You have to get this our society simply just was not set up for Black and brown people to be wildly successful. So a vast majority of us indeed have to make the decision on diapers or food. And if I am in the position where I'm having already to make decisions about diapers or food, I may very well give credence to this pill, because I can't feed the amount of people that are in my home now, right? But from my personal standpoint, where we stand, yes, we'd have a precious little grandchild in the house, and we just have to move on from life. Now let's talk about young SJ. I'd like I'd like
Be nice. Be nice. Be nice.
I'd like to believe that the girl's mother would allow me to help in such a way that we don't alter the trajectory of her life, because it's very likely that she's going to be the custodial parent if they are not together and happily ever after. So I'd like to say that would be the case, but because I'm not encouraging it with SJ, because accountability is necessary. You're going to take care of whoever you bring into this world, because everybody took care of you.
Yeah.
That's number one. But if SJ's hands are tied in this matter, we have to take a very passive approach. He's a boy, and to be perfectly honest, as double standard as this is going to sound, when you're not married, the role of parents often tends to lean towards mom and what's best for mom's space and how best mom can navigate this role. And boys oftentimes are generally unaffected, you know, when it comes down to the trajectory of their life. That's just the honest to God truth. But you know, this mom is teaching her boys to be all in, period. Dot. You're going to be all in because you know.
You
know
were all
that's
in.
right. You were all in.
Yeah.
You were
So,
all
you know, there's no sense in pulling away now. So that's
For
just
lack of better phrase.
for lack of a better, or as PG as I could come up with, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, that's just my thought.
Absolutely. How about you, Dr. Cooper?
I have some of the same sentiments as Beverly. I have a bonus daughter that will be 13 this year. And I know that Derek and I are in a position that if she became a teenage mother, we would be very hands-on, could help, not change the trajectory of her life. However, since she resides with her mother, that situation would look a little bit different. And I know I would
Right.
not have the final say. So I would not encourage it, but if that's her decision, I would definitely support her.
Definitely.
Now with my two small boys, they're only 3, so I feel like I have a long time to think about this, but again, would want to be a supportive mother either way, because I know that Derek and I could do whatever it takes to be hands-on with those children and or child. However need be to support the mother.
Hmm.
Again, would not encourage it, but would support it if that's a decision that one of the boys and the mother of that child made. I was born to teenage parents, and I just think that if either set of my grandparents had encouraged my parents to say, hey, look, we already got 4 kids of our own, with y'all being teenagers, and each one of my parents having younger siblings under them that were very close in age to me, and both grandparents saying, hey, we can't bring another baby in this house, I would not be here today on this call
Right.
to even talk about this. So you have to look at it from so many different perspectives. And when I look at it from that perspective, knowing that my parents had supportive parents, supportive aunts and uncles that were very hands-on with helping to raise myself and even my sister, I know I am the type of mother that's going to be a part of my children's village. If they have children as a result of a poor decision that they made, I don't see the need to condemn them for that. Just step up and support them in every way, whatever that looks like, financially, emotionally, however we
Yeah.
need to support them. I would want to be there to support. And if that decision looks like, hey, mama, I'm not ready to do this, we're not ready to do this, I won't, we've agreed that she needs to have an abortion. Hey, this is a decision you all have to live with, but you still have my love and support.
That's right. And therapy. And therapy, I think, because while abortion is one of those things that is very, some people view it as a quick fix. I don't. Regardless, there was another life growing in you. And whether you believe it or not, you're forever changed by that, no matter how long that life existed for you. So you too need to converse about that. You don't need to carry that on by yourself. So
Definitely.
Absolutely. Miss Miller.
So I agree with both lady sentiments. I think for me, like you said, it's so far out, but I just think about overall how I'd approach the situation. I think that one, I would make sure to support. I have a daughter, so support my daughter when she gets to that age, no matter what that decision is. But one thing that has just permeated throughout my life, and something that continues to stand out, is who is that other person? Who is that man that you would be attached to for the rest of your life? And how do I let you, at whatever point you are in your life, make a conscious decision that you're going to be tied to this man forever? I know that it's bigger than just that relationship, but I've just seen friends or associates who are doing life, and it's hard. Life is already hard, but the person that you are connected to through that child can make life so much harder. So when Beverly said, that support system, absolutely, it's just so critical. It's so critical if there is that missing someone, or that someone who isn't necessarily the best, I guess, influence. So I would definitely have to be in a position where I felt I could help her, but either way, it would be based on her decision. Now, depending on how old she is, like let's say she is less than 18, it's like, okay, your mind doesn't even fully develop till you're 25. What are you thinking? How can I help you come to that decision together? I'm going to do everything I can to help you make the very best decision for yourself, because at 18, you still have a lot of life to live. And I don't want to play the blame game, But like you said, everything is so over sexualized.
Mhm.
You know, you have this FOMO, you have kids who, you know, it's a different generation now where kids
Yeah.
are finding out
Definitely.
about sex even younger. I watched the parent test. Parents are telling their kids about sex at 8, 7 years
Oh,
old. You know, as soon as they're ready to ask the question, they're having those discussions because people
wow.
are talking about it
Wow.
so
Wow.
early. Yes, it blew my mind. But because of that, I want to make sure that she's armed with all of the decisions and she understands, you know, consequences, repercussions, the STDs, all of that when it comes to sexual knowledge. I could say that, you know, in the past, those really real conversations we may not have gotten, you know.
Mm,
But nowadays it's very important because kids are turning to other mediums to learn this and it's misinformation. It's
mm,
bad information.
mhm,
And I
Mhm.
don't want them to
mhm.
see a celebrity like Kylie Jenner is
Mhm.
21 and had a baby and she's rich and she's living the best life and think that
Right.
that's what that's
That's
what
the
Right,
it's
let's
gonna
be
exception,
do
not the
real.
That's the
rule.
reality of it.
Let's be
and
real.
it's like
Not what's happening here.
Right.
that's not reality. And it's crazy because my sister, she studies childhood psychology, and one thing they talk about is depression has gone up, suicide rates have gone
Yeah.
up. And to me, it just shows that impact and that influence that digital media is having. And
Mhm.
so being able to cut that off and making sure that my child's making the right mental decision, I think that would be number one priority.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Man, that is, you said a mouthful there. All three of you did. When I think about the conversations that we had as a child, being the youngest of three girls, the conversation of y'all, I'm an 80s baby. I'm thinking all of us are 80s
Mhm. Mhm.
babies.
Mhm.
And
I'm
Mhm.
so,
890.
yeah. So I was like, wait, hold on. I'm thinking about Tisha. Okay. But when I tell you all, I the conversations were very short. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know about you all's household, but my household, I'm gonna say it, y'all, and because this is a place of transparency. My dad took this small pill, right?
Oh.
And he has three girls, right? So he was like, imagine this pill. Now you put the pill between your knees. And we were like, what? And he was like, yeah, now keep it there. His face just went straight. It was like, don't ever take it out of there. Don't ever move it. I don't care if you get married. And we were like, wait, don't you want grandchildren? And he was like, yeah, after you get married, I guess. But raising in the South, raising, you know, young girls, young Black girls that he and his wife and my mom, you know, aspired to get up, do better than they were doing,
Yeah.
have more than they had, and to work harder. The last thing on their mind was three girls with children, as
Yeah.
teenagers. And so for us, it was kind of like, okay, the conversation was easy, right? So we talk about how life looks. It was, do not have sex. I mean it because I said so. Okay. Discussion. You know, you're right. And like we said, the times are so different. In the
Mhm.
80s and the 90s growing up, it really was a because I said so type of parenting. It was
Yes.
no gentle parenting. I think gentle was you not getting hit as quickly as you did. It happened 2 or 3 seconds later than it actually happened. But gentle parenting didn't no, we didn't grow up with that. We grew up with, you know, do it, get it done. That's our expectation.
Yeah.
And so with that, you know, we have a generation that believes, much like the three of you, that I need to stay out of trouble. I need to make sure I stay out of trouble. You know, getting pregnant, and even with my own story, getting pregnant out of wedlock, it was murder. Like, to tell my parents that I was pregnant, even though I was in my mid-30s with a child, it was murder for me, right? I was unwed. To tell my parents, that was awful. But to come back and tell my uncle, to come back and tell my uncles and my aunts was probably even worse because the expectation was higher, and they always see you as the little niece, or, you know, and they love you so much. And so, like Alesia just said, to her point, you know, who are we going to be attached to? Whose family are we going to be attached to? Who's this gentleman that you've created this child with, that we're going to be attached to for the rest of this child's life? And so those are some major points. I think that's all fantastic. And so we will wrap up, ladies, but before we do, I am a believer. I'm a proponent of making sure that we leave this world solution oriented, right? So we're not all about talking about the things that create the things. We know how children get here. We understand the abortion pill. We understand the abortion in clinic process. We understand all those things. But as moms, we always want to leave this world a little bit better than the way we found it. So we can talk about all the things, in my opinion, but as long as we leave it a little bit better than the way we found it. And so I'm going to ask each of you to give me a point of your own to leave with everyone that's watching. How do we, and this is the question I'll use based on the conversation that we've had this afternoon. How do we reel in our children from this overly sexualized world and help them understand the value? And because understand this, like in Alesia's case, and Beverly has already dealt with this, but teaching your daughter how important it is for a man to love you to the point that he's not only looking at your body, and he's not only looking at you for the things that you can do for him, or from a little boy standpoint, to appreciate a young lady and to respect her and to honor her and to love and care for her. But also to be mindful that as a young man, that you're valuable too, because you have to protect and provide. So you want to be with a young lady that you think is of value and of worth, right?
Yeah.
So how do we support moms who are watching with helping their little ones, or to helping their children understand that abortion may be the option, it may not be the option, but it's not the end of the world? How do we help them understand that this over-sexualized world is just that? It's an over-sexualized world, and you know, we hope that they operate in a greater space.
I think
Go
it's
ahead,
important
Beverly.
to
You
be
look.
open.
No.
Go
I
ahead,
think Dr.
Alesia.
Cooper was gonna go. It's okay. Go ahead, Dr. Cooper. It's okay.
I think it's very important to be open and honest, and ensure that your village is open and honest. And when you were saying that, one of the first things I thought about, my niece, who is 13 now, she maybe was about 5 or 6, and we were watching something on TV, and it was 2 girls kissing, and my mama like immediately turned the TV off and was like, "Milam, you know that's not right, right?" So I think we have to let our kids know that things like this happen, but because you see it, because it's normalized, does not make it right. Just because you see 2 women kissing, just because you see 2 men kissing, just because you see a couple having sex outside of marriage, does not make it right. It happens, it's life, but it's not right. I think we have to be very, we have to be real and raw and honest with our children. And that's one thing that I appreciate about both my parents. My dad, his real and raw was a little hard and heavy, whereas my mom was a little more gentle with it. But I do appreciate those conversations, because now I know to have those open, honest conversations with my children. So I think it's important that mothers are very open, honest. Let your children know that, you were young one day, you made mistakes, you live, you learn, and you do better. Teach your children. One thing that I really value from my mother is she always taught us, learn from my mistakes, do better than I did. So, let your children know you are human. You're not superwoman all the time. You've had your share of past experience. Just be open, be honest, be real, be raw.
Absolutely.
So I just to piggyback off of Alesia's, she's so right. I think the one thing that if I had to implore upon our moms is just be raw, be honest. I did not keep my younger indiscretions away from my children, and I just won't. Have I grown from the person that I was when I was 20 years old? Absolutely. So I'm going to tell you what I did when I was that age in hopes that you don't make the mistakes that I made. Make your own. Right? Don't do it, don't do what I did, do something different. And then, whatever your higher being is, mom, stay rooted in that and keep your kids rooted in that. Mine is our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I want my children rooted in him, and and I'm going to remain rooted in him, and I'm going to let that guide those decisions, those hard no's. When you want to give your baby yes out of love or sheer exhaustion, it's okay to have a hard no, because that temporary tantrum that they may have right now may save their life down the road. And I'll say this to Ashley's point. She grew up with, for those who don't know, my dad's twin, and I lost my mother at a very early age. So the opportunity to have the sex talk kind of went out the window. And not because my dad, I think, was necessarily afraid of the sex talk, but he just didn't have time. He was a single dad, and so a lot of things I had to rely on coming from the Jefferson household or my older sister. So those and the conversations I had, especially with my older sister, shaped the honest conversations that I have with my own children. So be raw, be honest, look to your higher power and stay there.
Absolutely. Don't let my dad's Beverly
Heal situation go.
Yeah, that
was an interesting anecdote. That was pretty interesting.
Okay.
That's so funny.
How about you, Alesia?
Yeah, I would have to agree with what the lady said before. When it comes to just protecting that overall mindset from some of those influences, I think really just being grounded in faith. And I love the point of transparency, because I'm also, God, my Lord and Savior, we do church, we do our Bible study, and part of that is your testimony. Part of that is being honest and transparent and showing that everything didn't go the way I wanted to go, but it went the way God wanted it to go. And just imploring them to know that life is a journey. You're going to get things wrong all the time. You're going to fail all the time.
Yes.
But what you're seeing out there, that perfect lifestyle, don't wish to attain that. Wish to attain your own award, your own medal, your own championship that no one else can win but you. And just keeping that mindset really focused on the realities of life and what our choices mean and how we can fall into faith to make it through those high times, or those low times, all the way to those high times.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, ladies, I am humbled. I'm grateful. Thank you so much for coming and for spending some time with us at the Because I Said So Mommy panel. You all you're phenomenal. I mean, literally, when you think about just who you are as women, first and foremost, your children are truly blessed, right? And so I was telling one of the moms earlier, I was like, I'm surrounded by the proverbial women. I am surrounded by the proverbial 31 women. And that's something to be said within itself, right? When we think about every single last one of you and the capacities, the gifts, the talents that you have, and to leave that with these moms who truly need it. There are moms that are in that space and that truly need that. And so we thank you guys so much. We will, and I want everyone to take a moment. I always want, or I will always acknowledge all of the moms. Again, we have Miss Beverly Jones, we have Dr. Alesia Cooper, and we have Miss Alesia Miller, who, by the way, you guys check out her information in the description box below. She inspires the world with inspirational calendars per the journey that she knows women deal with. And so we would love you guys to go and check her out, follow her, like her on Instagram, and spend some time with her getting to know just what it is that she has to offer you. And so we're so thankful for that. Ladies, thank you so much. Mwah! From Jackson and I to you all, from our home to yours. Thank you guys so much. Everyone have a great evening.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.